We're live, we're going. You guys I've met. Everybody else, I'm Jonah Goldsaito, and this is ReachYou. Let's see if you can hear this in the back. If you can't hear it, you might want to get a little closer. Let me close this so that... Because interestingly, the audio... the system doesn't pick up audio, so this is just coming out of, luckily they're decent speakers on the laptop. This is a trailer for the project.
I don't know if this will reach you, but I have to believe that it will. Out here, in this shiver of stars and of infinite space, I miss our shipwreck of human culture.
I miss the possibility of human interaction. I miss certainty or the illusion of certainty.
All right, so that was the trailer that I cut together. Did you notice any of the local sites? Did anybody? Anyone who's local? A lot of that was shot in Northampton. So that was the trailer. Most of it was taking the screen grabs of the app on an iPhone or an iPad. That is my partner, Jonah Goldsaito, and that was supposed to give a little teaser for what it's about. I'm just curious. Does anyone have any when you saw it? What is that? Any takeaways? One word. Was it weird? Intriguing?
Intriguing.
Scary?
I'll go with intriguing.
Okay. All right. Good. Intriguing is good. So, yeah, that was part of it. How to make this thing that was kind of felt enough that you understood it, that you wanted more, that it wasn't scary. It's not like a horror. This is meant to make you feel a certain way, and getting to that was hard. So ReachYou is an AR transmission from the future to help us in the tenderness of this time. That's how we started to talk about it. It began in Morocco. Actually, no, it didn't begin in Morocco, but that is me. It was partially Morocco. It was no, it wasn't in New Zealand. It kind of came from New Zealand. It definitely didn't come from Google. It came because I left Google, and my family and I, our two little kids, our youngest was 9 months old when we left. We had a almost 4-year-old, and two of those pairs of shoes are my in-laws. We picked up, and we decided to, every 3 months, move to a different country, set up shop, and see what happened. What would manifest in our lives, what we'd want to learn in this new place. So you saw those Morocco, New Zealand, those are all places where we were and where this happened. So from this project was this idea started to come about. And the idea was every time we were talking back home with people, which didn't happen all that much. We were very much in the present in these places. It takes a lot to be in a new place. How do you do things, especially when you have kids and you're changing diapers? We had to be very present. But when we would reach out, it felt like we were reaching out from a different universe. It felt like we were reaching out from a different multiverse, time, dimension. And it felt like, oh wait, is there a project there? And we started joking about it, my wife and I, maybe we are reaching out from the future. Maybe the world has ended. And we just laughed. And then we thought, is that dark? No, it could be good. There could be something warm in that about being present when you know that things are going to end. When you know something's going to end, you value it more, right? There's a concept called mono no aware in Japanese where the beauty of the thing is heightened because you know it's going to be gone, right? And when someone knows that they're getting sick, it changes your perception. So really, really, really where this began, the first manifestation of the project was in Almaty, Kazakhstan. And the reason we went is because we were at a little dinner in Boston with some friends, a few artists, and a woman who is an art professor, does light at Mass Art. She mentioned just around the dinner table that she was going to Kazakhstan to this festival, Go Viral, which is kind of their, like a little version of almost South by Southwest there. It's business, tech, art. It's funded by the U.S. Embassy, which we didn't realize. Most of the money comes through there. A little bit of soft diplomacy, and it's about young people seeing that they have agency, entrepreneurship. This is a country that's coming out of communism 20 years ago, but that has oil money and some ability to move in that direction. So she said, in a month I'm doing this thing at a festival there. You guys make things. Do you have anything you'd want to show? I bet you do. And it may have been tongue-in-cheek, but we took it pretty seriously. I kind of got this feeling like, oh my God, this is what we're doing. I started shaking a little bit. And I turned to Katrina, and we decided, we made a pitch. We applied the next day, put together, we'd only been thinking about this as a concept. And we put it out there, and they accepted it. So we had a month to put together a live performance that was software-assisted, software that I wrote, and a script that my wife and I wrote. She's a writer, so that certainly helped a lot. And we had to learn our lines and perform it. And we did. So this is us. We've gotten off the stage at this point. The transmission from the future, which is my wife, recordings of my wife. In the future, we're mediating between her and the audience. She's asking them to do things. I'm controlling them in my back pocket with a little clicker so that the videos are changing and going to different videos. And that's how it feels like it's interacting and it's coming at the right time and she's responding to what they're saying. Also, little things like when we say, what is a taste of home to you? We tell them all to just say it out. And they all speak at once, and then little words would propagate on the screen. We had asked a lot of people who were Kazakh beforehand, what is a taste of home? So we knew the dishes. We knew the things that evoked home to them. That was already pre-populated, but it felt like it was listening to them. So we did a lot of these types of things. There was movement, a lot, and it really spoke to them. Now what's powerful about this motion I'm doing is we have them holding up signs, and I forget what it was that they were drawing at that time, but what's powerful about this is that the day before this, there was the first election in Kazakhstan in 20 years where there would be a change of power. The person who had been handed power when the USSR, when they got independence, 20 years before, actually at the building that we're in front of, he was going to be stepping down, and there was an election. He was basically going to hand it off to the second in command. He'd been voted in, re-elected with 99% approval every time, which obviously, and this next person was probably going to get it, and all the young students, people came out to protest. Now it's illegal to protest there. In fact, it's even illegal to hold up a sign, a white piece of paper. So some people were protesting that you couldn't protest by holding up signs that had no protest on it, but just the act of holding up signs meant they went to jail. I don't believe there was violence in that. I think everyone is okay, but symbolically that's a big deal. This was happening outside. The day we arrived, social media was down, and we thought, we're about to do this and talk about people having agency in making their own choices, and we thought, are we going to go to jail, actually? Is this a bad idea? Well, we did it, and everything worked out. But the real question is, okay, well, that was wonderful. That was this one moment in these people's lives, and what do we do next? Like, are we going to take this thing on the road? Do we just go from country to country, and this is what's going to drive the way we move from now on? And we started to ask other questions, like, could we give this to groups in other places where we don't have to be so more people can do it? Is there any possible way we could scale this and make it facilitated? Could groups like AA groups, could any group anywhere run these on their own? Could we make the human record real? Let me explain what the human record was. So do you know Carl Sagan's golden record? It's this golden record that's still off, flying further than any other man-made object on Explorer from Earth. It's still going out there and it has recorded some sounds on it. So on this, in the grooves of this golden record, I think it really is gold that Carl Sagan and Andrew made, there's a limited number of sounds that are engraved in it. Well, there's only so much you can fit on a record. But the human record, it was meant to capture like a snapshot of human emotion of this time with the idea that it will be gone and it needs to be stored. And with the cloud, we could, with tech, in theory, store everything, right? We're not limited to our little record. So could we make that real? And then we thought, well, how would the future actually reach out to you? What would that manifest as? We've seen that in movies. Like, what would that look like? How do you do it as a person? Could we do it digitally on our own, without having huge budgets of a game company or a film company? And could we create a lasting and evolving relationship with participants? So that was like a performance, right? And then maybe we do another performance, but then we never see those people again. And maybe they remember it. Like, there were people crying at that thing in Kazakhstan. It was it was humbling and awesome. But we haven't continued to make an impact in their lives, and who knows? Probably not. But could we make something that continued a relationship with them? So we started to work on this experience, this digital experience. We talked about it when we tried to apply for grants. We talked about it as a co-created public art piece with episodic AR content and a sci-fi narrative. So that's Katrina right there. And you'll notice, let's let that loop again. Maybe it'll take too long. You see the dates coming up. So that was something that we would do. She would say, I'm reaching out to you. It should be, if this is coming through to your time, it should be right now. And then, the phone knows the date. But they don't know that recording, that's not part of that. It really feels like, oh my God, she knows the date. There are a lot of these little things that we could do. So it asked participants to reflect and contribute their own stories. In the first episode, the first transmission, we asked for a grief and a gratitude. And getting them to do that well was one of the big tricks. Of course, we moved to Santa Elena, Colombia, which is right outside of Medellin in the mountains, because that's where you go to build an AR project. AR felt like the right way to make a transmission for ReachYou. AR, first of all, well, I'd always been curious about building an AR. Like, I hadn't done 3D math in a million years. There was no professional reason that I would be getting into AR. I was always jealous when people had that experience. I couldn't find a team like that at Google that had any openings. And there was so much UX to explore. Like, the amount of stuff that had been done in AR was like Wayfair putting a couch into your living room. It was all based in capitalism and by some kind of consumption experience of an object. Now try the object before you buy it, right? That's all useful. It's not exactly inspiring, and the way you interact with it, I hadn't seen anything really interesting done in art. So around AR, it was a medium that would be totally new to most people. When we made this, we started in 2019. Most people had not even touched that Wayfair example of putting the couch in your living room. So this would be a lot of people's first experience with AR. So it would feel like the future if suddenly their phone was showing them a hologram. And, it's weird that no one had seen it because phones already had this tech. Like, AR Core and AR Kit already existed. So we had this, like, vector right into people's worlds, into their living rooms, their favorite park, their backyard, wherever. They hadn't seen an experience using the tech that they were just carrying around in their pocket every day, which is a wild opportunity to have. So, there's one but here. We wanted to make sure, like, a bunch of things, philosophically or at a foundational level. It had to be an experience and not an app. We didn't want people picking it up and feeling like, oh, it's just an app, right? Because then you interact with an app in a certain way, it's not that interesting, you delete it, you never see it again. Like, apps mean a thing to people. And we didn't want these people to be users. I hate that word. I hate the word. I work at Khan Academy, and for example, I work on the teacher team. We talk about the teacher doing this, what the teacher needs here. How will the teacher be able to get this insight on their students? It's not like user A and user B, because what does that mean? Now, and it's also kind of demeaning, I think. Could we embrace humane tech and stay clear of common UX patterns to steal attention? So a lot of the things that are built into the phone that are like best practices, of course you get someone's email right away. Because if you don't, you can't market to them right after. Like you can't re-engage them and then your metrics go down. And oh no, you know, all of these things like your phone vibrating, all of this stuff is built to get your attention. And sometimes that's really useful to you. And a lot of times, it's predatory. Or at least it's not in your best interest. So, examples of that, of all the ways you could get someone to come back. You know, I already mentioned getting an email immediately. There are all the notifications. They're just the dynamics of, I put this thing up, I contributed something. Does someone like it? Does someone not like it? Is someone trying to fight with me? Should I go fight back? Like, all of that is, you know, just like the normal paradigm for now. And how we could use all those APIs, those things that I was just mentioning, to reinforce presence and to create a sense of surprise.
Let's try something. Come closer.
So right here, she said, let's try something. I don't know if you can hear in the back. Come closer, and you step forward. And then she reaches out, and there's a shader that warps the visuals, but it also vibrates your phone. And the warping, the sound, and the vibration, like, kind of shocked people. Because they're getting close. It felt like she asked you to come close, and then all of a sudden she touches you. People react, right? We use the haptic API, of course. Had to test, like, what amount worked. It's typically used to grab your attention, you know, in your pocket, but that and other methods, we were trying to figure out, every moment was like, how can we use this differently? Could we make this thing unfamiliar while still making it intuitive, right? If they didn't understand how to use it, it was a fail. But if it just looked like every other app and it made sense and they know what to click, there's the mystery of like, wait, what's behind this? It's a lot of that is in game design, right? We also had to make it trustworthy enough because we were going to ask people for these intimate moments, like to be really vulnerable with us and have that be recorded. They didn't know who made the app, right? Is it a company making this? What are they going to do with it? We had to make it feel like somehow, even though we wanted it to be mysterious and not tell them who we were, we wanted them to feel like that they trusted it enough to do it. That took a lot of prototyping and testing over and over again from Santa Elena, Colombia. All of our friends and various friends of friends in the States, we would send them a build. I had to figure out how to use test flight and all these things. Oh my God, the Apple system is ridiculous for that. And one of the things that we ended up coming to that made people feel much more open in doing, like giving us these intimate audio recordings, was we got them to hum first. So that's an interesting one. All right, I'm going to ask you to do something with me. First, I want you to just, we're going to make a note. Can you feel your lips vibrating when you close your mouth? When you contain the sound, all of a sudden, like, your body vibrates in a different way. It's the first vocalization we make you do in our experience. And the fact that it's something anyone can do, you're not thinking about your pitch, you're not really thinking about it's so basic. It also warms you up in a way. And then when we ask you to say something, it's not the first time that you've produced sound. It was totally transformative for us. So the first thing we do, let's see, I think this is the part where she does it in this recording.
There might be a way for you to reach us using just your voice. We would record something very small, a hum.
We demonstrate how you record.
I'll be right back.
She does it first. Anytime she asks you for something, if she wants you to tell a story, she tells the story first, and it models what the story would be like. So someone's humming. They hear their voice back, and then another one's added, another, and another, and another. It makes a chorus. If they had all hit the right note, they're in harmony with those others. Those are pre-recorded. It's not pulling from the server like dynamically, it's an MP3. But it feels all of a sudden like you're humming with other people, maybe live.
Your hum is a unique vocal signature that has the potential to carve a path back to us. We want to fill the vacuum of space with your voices. If there are other archivists who have received this message, then you will have heard their voices by now. Up here in space, we have lost so much.
All right, so the could this relationship grow over time part of it, right? We don't want this to be a singular thing. Everyone should have like a different message, right? Like something new that we're trying to show and something that different we want you to reflect on and give back to us that are connected thematically. So part of that was that we filled it on an iPhone, so it was very easy to make these transmissions. I mean, it's acting and writing, so it's like not easy, but the actual production of it was super easy. This is in a little back room in our house in Colombia. On there, you can see a little bit of egg crates. Egg crates. There, we have like literal egg crates, not like the foam ones, but literal egg crates glued up to the wall. Yeah, for sound. She has a black backdrop behind her. I wrote a simple WebGL shader that basically everything that's black gets... Oh, that was unintentional. Let's see. There we go. Everything that's black goes transparent, right? So all you see are the light parts. And then those were, I have coming in scan lines. And that's all done on the phone, which means you can upload the video with no processing and it can work. And what that means is that if we wanted to have other people be this character, a librarian, for their own community, right? So if you had a community that you wanted to speak to from the future and gather stories from your own community that, you know, we don't necessarily know, you could make your own community. We had this idea of making like a federated thing where different people are reaching back from the future to speak to their, you know, whether it's any kind of group you can imagine. So I made kind of a format and a builder of these things. There's a video portion that plays like that, a recording portion where you put in the amount of time you want it to record for and like a prompt. There are different events where things happen, like when the date pops up, when your phone vibrates. Those are all time-coded to happen within videos, like at a certain moment. So those are all events you can add to anything. So it's a very simple thing. Web app. My first React app, actually. Storage, it was all Firebase. I did a lot of research, like what would work? What if this happened to ever, for some reason, get popular, is not going to make us, like, you know, lose all the money we have in the world. And then the last one is moderation. Because if people start saying, like, really hateful or horrible things, and they record those and they go up there, they shouldn't go into the human record for other people to listen to. Did you see when those pyramids were tapped and they unfurled like a flower and then audio came up? Each one of those is someone really said that as their answer. And as those get approved, moderated and approved, they become available to people, and they come at the end of each transmission. You get to see everyone's answers to the thing you just answered. That's the mechanic. And then you saw the object in the middle there. They start to stack up. So you can touch any one, and those are the different transmissions, like talismans almost. Listening to others. So we believe that if participants could do that, building empathy, resilience, it just felt like a net positive. So
Go explore the ever-expanding human record. Take as much time as you need. And when you're done, come find me. I'll be right here.
So this is someone touches it on the screen.
I miss this drink you got on the streets of India with sugarcane and lime juice and mint, and drinking it on the back of my cousin's motorcycle.
turns away. He's still talking, but it gets quieter because you move the phone away from the object.
Possibility of human interaction happens when strangers collide.
That's how we designate like a visited link, right? You listen to that, so it flips.
レッスンも僕らと一緒にギターとウクレレでジャムセッションすることができて
Japanese,
Y los triunfos del día.
Spanish.
My friend Chris died last night. I will miss him and his generosity and his brilliance terribly.
That's pretty vulnerable. Did you hear that?
Agradecido, relegado a todos los ustedes to say yes to each other, where that could lead us in the future.
All right. So at first we were like, the pandemic hit, by the way, during this, in Colombia. We stayed for about another 8 months, I think. And it was total lockdown there. One person was allowed to leave the house once a week based on the number, like your passport ID number, to get food. That was like it. It meant that they could really, keep COVID at a minimum from spreading. Meanwhile, in the States, like, everything was obviously what it was. And we thought, well, if we got in touch with museums, maybe no one was going to museums. What if this was a way that in the safety of your own home, you could be in an art experience that is public and hear other people's voices like you're in a gallery while being safe? And we thought, well, let's reach out. And you know what happened? Kind of nothing. It didn't work out. Museums were not, the connections that we tried to work, it just didn't happen. On the other hand, amazingly, a friend, after we moved to Northampton, this is when we came back, she said, why don't you just try to apply to Tribeca Film Festival? And it seemed like a super long shot. And also, we saw that the extended due date, like the last day you could possibly apply, was my birthday. And I thought, I don't know. If there's such thing as a sign, let's try it. So we did it, and like all the other applications we'd had for grants and this and that, it took a lot of time, and it seemed like it was the same pattern of not necessarily getting it. We'd gotten a few small grants. But one day, we got an email from the curator of Tribeca, and she said she wanted to have a conversation. And we're like, oh, wow. She didn't say we were in. She said she wanted to have a conversation. We set up a Zoom date, and it turned out that she wanted us, which was kind of incredible. We started working on, what does that mean? We're going to install this at Spring Studios in New York City. There are going to be famous people moving through. Wait, what does this mean? Okay, we have to build an installation. How much is that going to cost? We were going to have to front it. It's actually quite expensive. I was amazed. They don't pay for it. They're getting, in a way, free things, free stuff to show their community, and we're fronting the bill for building the stuff. Luckily, the curator is an amazing person. She connected us with someone at Unity. We got a small grant that covered the cost of the installation. The people at Unity were great. I forget, is it Unity for Good? I forget the name of the group. They take grants, or they give out grants every year. So look out for those grants if you're at all interested in the space. This was a rendering of what the experience could look like. You wander in this path, and then you do it in the middle there. That's where you launch the pyramid. This was tricky. This was designed to be done in your own home. So the texture of your experience was like your life, right? It was meant to that's where you'd be visited by a transmission from the future in your life in reality. That's what makes it powerful. Not some fabricated thing it's not meant to look like a movie sci-fi art space, right? It's supposed to be that it's your books and your pictures behind these objects coming up. So this was really hard. What we ended up going with was we got these Legos, which were actually pretty inexpensive. They were being sold secondhand on Facebook Marketplace, or maybe Craigslist. This family was moving to LA and they got rid of them. In New York, people build walls to make rooms when they have a kid to separate part of their living room. So it's a whole industry there. There's a door and everything. So we loaded these up. We brought them on the way through New York. Now this is a project called Lattice Work that our friend works on, Chrissy Liu and Morgan Packard. This is just paper. They roll a 8 by 10.5 rolls of paper long ways, and then you connect them at the top. You make that triangle at the bottom, and then you'll see if you get 3 on the bottom and you put another one on top, you can keep making these tetrahedrons. You can get really high. They're actually really good support structure. And what we thought would be cool about that is that people could sit and add to it. And in the same way they were adding their voices to the human record, they could add to making the space that contained the experience. So people could sit, talk about things, roll it, talk about the experience, what they got from it, what they thought we maybe should do next. And people did it. Our friend did these light fixtures. She kind of, she really designed, she ended up designing the space. She teaches at Parsons. Amazing human. Natalia Zubko. And the music was done by our friend Bo Kenyon, who's a composer. The other thing about Tribeca is you randomly meet famous people. So Katrina's here. We only saw him for a second. We're not like best friends or anything. But if you know LL Cool J, Katrina got to like snap a shot with him on the rooftop. Every night, all the artists and everyone got to just hang out on the rooftop, sponsored by whatever company. And like that, after about 10 days of being there all day long, morning until evening, I think it was 10 days, it was over. And this place that had been this curated space and lights and sound and mostly VR experience, and most of these things were done by, were funded by Meta. They were funded by big companies. They had a lot of money, a lot of production. The artists would come just on VIP day. It was set up by a whole production team. A different team ran this, a different team ran that. We were like, oh, hi. We're married. We're gonna do this ourselves. There was one other team that they had a producer, but they also figured everything out themselves. But we broke it all down, and I won't play it, but we crashed through all that paper. It was kind of fun. One of the curators that we met coming through, because the people that do these XR events around the world, they go to each other's things and they say, oh, I want that in mine. Will you come to us? So someone from Kaohsiung, Taiwan, asked us if we wanted to come, and I was like, that sounds really interesting. I've been 10 years ago, and Taiwan is amazing. This is just a quick video of in the space. So they paid for the space, built out everything, built all the physical things out. They had a design team kind of make something that worked with the aesthetic we'd had in the original. We sent them pictures. It was a very different experience. They also paid for translators. You can see there's kind of a version of almost like closed captioning. I made like a closed captioning system for this.
Correctly, they should
So really, in theory, you could put in any, as long as you had time codes with translations for any language, it should load up the native language on your app and play the right text.
Forward. But now I think I found a window.
Is this going to play all the way through? No. They do XR in Taiwan. This was a place where people were just, this isn't even part of the festival. I mean, it was, I think, lightly sponsored, but it's a different venue that always is just full of XR. And look at the space, really cool. It's also a place in Kaohsiung. It's on the ocean. It's the southernmost tip. So much art. This is built using just chairs, wooden chairs. And you can go in and walk around. There was art everywhere. There was a design festival at the same time, a food festival at the same time. They really invest in art and artists. And a lot of people from the festival were going to come and do fellowships after. There's a French guy who was getting paid to work on these things that he loved. I met all of these people from all over the world. And at the same time, kind of the irony of it is that while Katrina couldn't come to Taiwan, I couldn't stay and install at the MFA Boston. We had this really cool opportunity for one night at one of their night events to install ReachYou for a lot of people. So a roundabout way, we somehow got back into a museum, and our childhood Museum of Fine Arts, which was just an incredible honor. So I miss that. And honestly, every so often I wonder if, it will continue. Will there be another transmission? And I don't know, at some point the answer might be yes. I feel like at some point maybe the world needs another or we need to make another message from the future. It really the thing that we were making, we were trying to get people to step back from like the normal flow of their lives and reconsider what they were doing and realize like they had agency to change, right? And then the pandemic hit, and suddenly this aligned in a crazy way. The end of the world felt like palpable. It wasn't just like this, oh, what if of a sci-fi movie. And who knows? I mean, hopefully we don't hit something like that again, but there might be a time where ReachYou has a place. If you want to try it, it's still up in the iOS App Store. The Android version is down right now. I don't have time to keep all this going, and I'm hoping that they don't change all their APIs enough that all breaks, and also that Google doesn't get rid of Firebase. They like to sunset projects. That would be very sad. But yeah, if you have something with iOS on it, you can try it. Unfortunately, the Vision Pro, that would be so awesome, but they don't allow you to use shaders. You can like input an object, but they control the lighting, they control, so it wouldn't work on there, which is unfortunate. That's Katrina, that's me, Katrina Goldsaito, Jonah Goldsaito. Feel free to reach out. Always happy to talk about, whatever projects. I like making things, and I like talking about making things with people who make things. Thank you very much. Cool. So we have a few minutes. I went a little bit over. I apologize, but I don't know if that raised any questions. If you want to talk about something you're making, I can do that too. Connect afterwards. But yeah. Anything anyone wants to ask? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So sorry. So I first of all, really freaking cool project. Where art meets technology. My big question comes down to, I love the idea of introducing art and human connection through technology.
Yeah.
But do you ever feel like in some ways that the mere use of the technology can run contrary to the very idea that you're working towards?
Totally.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a...
That's why, we were constantly having to ask ourselves, are we doing the right thing here? Are we just breaking our principles? Because there were so many times we realized, oh wow, this will work so much better, so much easier, and maybe a lot of users want it if we just ask for the email at the beginning. If we just did that. We do an anonymous auth and login with Firebase, which is one option they have. But if they, their phone broke and they move to a new phone, there's no way to get that content, but you don't have your transmissions anymore. And those might be meaningful to people. So it's well, do we optimize for them to have a way to get their stuff back? Or does that kind of break the whole thing we're trying to do? And we'll figure it out later. If people really need their stuff, we'll figure out how to connect their account. We'll get there. But it was a constant set of questions, and it was hard. Yeah. Yep.
I guess I had a similar sort of question, you are not trying to market to them, but on the other hand, you're playing games with the date, which is sort of tricking them, and maybe even the haptic feedback is getting their attention. And it seems like a fine line you're trying to go where you're doing it for them and yet getting something from them and trying not to violate the trust that you're building.
Yeah. So where's the line? I guess we for us, it was about just always asking where the line was and rooting ourselves in, okay, we're storytellers. We want to tell a good story. What are the mechanisms we have to do that and to make a real world? Which of these things will make a real world without going against any of our principles? We don't want to violate any of the principles. And the haptic feedback, it just makes it feel like you interacted. What's the difference between that and putting pixels on the screen to make it look like she's there? They're all just mechanisms. We didn't use it to, get you to come back every day. That would cross the line. So with all these things, we were using APIs that were specifically designed for these things, and we made conscious choices to use them for other things. But yeah, it was hard to both questions, constantly hard. Which made it fun too.
Yeah.
We couldn't just take like the normal path.
And
What's up?
no, I already asked my question.
So, as you mentioned, like when a participant joins and sees the first transmission, and they begin with recording that hum sound.
Mm-hmm.
Where did you come up with that inspiration, or was that like a constant feedback loop, trying
Yeah.
to research different things? Because the closest representation, what I can relate to, is the sound of Om, which is a very
Yeah.
sacred sound in Hinduism.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever we are taught yoga and meditation, we are taught that you need to hold your breath and like first breathe, take a deep breath,
I want to do it right now.
say that word and keep at it for a long time, because that vibration makes you feel connected to the roots, and
Yeah.
it's like a divine sound.
Yeah.
So like, how did you what was the inspiration behind it? Like, how did it come to that point?
We were not making this in a vacuum for sure. I'm for 100% that was an inspiration. But we didn't get there right away.
Right.
Like you said, we tried and we're like, why can't people? At first we just asked them a question, for example, and then people didn't really know. Did they ramble? Did they just say a word? The first thing was we found that if Katrina kind of first gave her own story, and it kind of showed, it was like a little bit abstract, it was poetic. People who are not writers, artists, would speak in a way that was poetic, because it had just been that had been the exemplar, right? Like that had been they thought, okay, that's how you do it. Now I'll do it. And then they heard themselves and like, I like that, And we also gave them a way to re-record. So there was no time limit. There was no, you only get one shot. We wanted to make people feel comfortable. But still, that wasn't enough. And when we got to the hum, and I don't remember if we came up with it together, if Katrina did it, if friends said it when we were asking them what would help. I really honestly don't remember. I should go ask Katrina if she remembers. But it definitely changed things, and it made us feel happy. Yeah.
On a lighter note, does the following quote ring a bell? Everything happening now is happening now. From Spaceballs.
Oh, all right. No, I haven't seen Spaceballs in a while. We were trying to decide if we were like, oh, still a little too old for our kids. Still a little. I mean, they would love it. They would love it. We're waiting a little bit. Cool. Thanks.
So I guess I come back to one thing is I can download this and I can go through the experience.
Yeah.
The only problem about not capturing the email, and I'm sure that you had this thought too, or connection, is people who want to know the next thing.
Right. Yeah.
How do we find out about that?
So that was hard. And what we ended up deciding on at the end is that once you're done, if you've seen what this experience is and you felt it was valuable, we say explicitly, do you want the next transmission, essentially? And if you say yes, so all the transmissions, we don't have an infinite number. I think we made 4 or something. So we have some number, but we also don't want it to tell you right away that it exists, right? Like, is she just 2 seconds later, suddenly there's a new transmission? So what we do is, even if the thing exists, we set a timer per person. So X number of days from when you completed it, a new transmission comes in. So it feels like that transmission may have launched for other people a year ago, or now many years ago. But to you, it feels like, oh, it's here now. So we felt like that was, if someone is really saying they want the thing because they know what the thing is, it felt like that was fully, well, good. They want it. Good question, though. We wrestled with it. We haven't written to people in a long time, though. There hasn't been a transmission.
Do you have the inspiration for your next project?
I mean, this is making me inspired. But the next project. You mean a different project? Ooh.
There's got to be one.
Oh my god, I have 0 extra time, but I would love to. Cool. Well, we're at time, and I don't know. That was really nice. Thank you for
Thank you.
thank you for listening.